Hi everyone, the Lone Wolf here. Welcome to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the market in EVE Online. Now, I've not been very active in EVE Online in the last few days. The reason is actually out of my control. We have a real heat wave going on in Belgium at the moment. I think in a lot of Europe, actually in many parts of Europe, there are very high temperatures. And since we're not used to that at all in Belgium, I don't have air conditioning in my room. As a result, I'm not able to play games as much as I would like to. But normally today should be the worst day, so the hottest day. Then we might see some thunderstorms, and then by next week the temperatures should finally drop. Of course, we are all here for the market, so let's dive right into that with plex at 45 seconds. And those are up a little bit, not that much, so they're up to 933 million pretty much for the sellers, 913 million for the buyers. I do like that, and that is a 19 million margin in between the buyers and the sellers. That's pretty big. Widening gap. Could be that there is some pressure on plexus at the moment. I'm hoping that it means that plexus might actually go down a little bit. Let me see here. You can see that it looks like we're reaching a top. That was last week's downtrend. We did go through the 20-day moving average with the 5-day moving average. That's not bad. And so now if we could actually start going down a little bit because of that larger margin, I think it is possible. We are seeing a lot of threats and discussion about how EVE is dying because of the low login numbers. But I think I'm a case in point. I play EVE Online every day, but with temperatures like these, all I really do is just log in, do my PI, do some research jobs, and then just log back out. It's just too hot to play. And so the summertime, the good weather and extreme weather like this all have an impact, I think, on gameplay. This doesn't necessarily mean that EVE Online is dying or dropping subs at a completely out of control rate or anything like that. It's true that the banning of Iceboxer will have had something to do with that. A lot of people with many accounts have dropped most of those. But overall, I think it's not the time to panic. I think it's more time to keep an eye on the plex prices. If there is indeed lower activity in the game, we could see a pullback of the price, and that could be a very good buying opportunity. At least that's my short opinion on the matter. If all of this discussion keeps going, I might try and make a more in-depth video about it. Let's see what the multiple pilot trading certificate is doing. That one is also seemingly reaching a top at 920 million. I think it will start either moving sideways, but potentially, as I've said, I do think it could pull back. The 5-day moving average has yet to cross 20-day moving average, but they're coming pretty close. Let's take a look at the margin here as well. 901 for the buyers, 933 for the sellers. I would say that potentially there is indeed some pressure on the price at the moment to go down a little bit. Next up, pilot body risk up certificate. That one has a mind of its own, but it's going down just a touch. So that could be good news. If it's a precursor of what's happening to the other real-life transaction goods, then that would be some very good news, I think. Next up, we'll check on the minerals, 330. For that one, let's start with titanium, which is actually up a little bit. In fact, 5-day moving average crossing 20-day moving average at the 5.2 ISK point. That's pretty interesting, a little bit unexpected in my book. I thought we had more momentum down, but it looks like it might actually not be happening. It is possible that titanium will have found its price here. One thing, when it comes to actual in-game goods, the lower activity is actually a double-edged sword. Of course, if you get fewer people making ISK, thus dropping the price of plex. At the same time, you're very likely to also have fewer people mining, thus decreasing the supply of goods, mining or whatever else. And thus it is possible that we see sideways movements in the rest of the economy, but lower plex prices. And here for now, it does look like titanium might be starting a slow sideways movement. I think 512 for the buyers, 524 for the sellers. These are all pretty, very recent orders. Decently big, 100 million. I think this, all of them at 521, then 500, another 1 billion here. So this is pretty much 2 billion units of titanium. The demand is still there though, a billion here, a billion here, a billion here. So I'd say it's not like any of them have a clear advantage at the moment. It's not like it's clearly a seller's market or clearly a buyer's market. And so again, that does I think indicate that we could be moving sideways next. Here is the pyrite chart, then also slowing down, not willing to break 5. 10.8 ISK here, coming back together with the 20-day moving average. Let's take a look at supply demand here. Supply, this is pretty recent, yeah, 44 million, 40 million, 75 million on the demand side. This is older, actually 181, but still 60 million here, 23 million here. Decently balanced. I think we're set for some stable prices at the current range, I think. Next up here we've got Mexalon, very similar. I thought it had more momentum down, but you can see that the market has said no, 42 is low enough. We're actually going back up a little bit, and again crossing that 20-day moving average. It really does start to look like we could have some stable prices here. Let's take a look at supply demand numbers. I'm not spotting that much very new here. 2 million new supply, 15 million new supply here. Demand 5, 1 and 4, so another, again, pretty much in line. A couple more, look here, 30 million for instance, newer buy orders, so a bit more demand. I think Mexalon might just go up a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be that drastic or a complete pull out. And the 42 to 44 ISK price band, or ISK price band, I think that's how I should pronounce it, I think is very much in the cards at the moment. Let's take a look at Isogen here, trying to do something here. I think that was last week where Isogen actually did the opposite of most of the other minerals, but now it's coming back down, and that is slowing down as well. So I think we're settling at between the 100 and the 105 for Isogen here. 103.08 for the buyers, 103.95 for the sellers. Here we've got 12 million, 43 million, that's actually an older order. And here 6.7 million, pretty new, 1.5, all of this is actually pretty new. But all of that pretty much negates only the 11 million, so it's still decently balanced. And here we've got a couple of recent ones at 10 and 18 million units, but at a strange set price point. But again, I do think that 100, let me see on the chart here, 100 to 105 could be in the book. So these two sell orders, if they're still here by next week, it's really an indication that they are actually working as a ceiling and that the sideways movement is happening. Maybe the market is a bit smaller in volume. I should maybe check that out. No, actually it still looks quite okay volume wise as well. I thought maybe that was something that was happening, but it doesn't look like it. So yeah, for the high-sec minerals, I think sideways movement is in the cards now. Let's take a look at Noxium, doing very similar moves here at the moment. Again, crossing the 20-day moving average just now, but it's been below and above that a few times before. So all of that actually looks like quite an okay situation. There is still demand here, 2 million, 3 million, 5 million units. Pretty much the entire front page is pretty recent on the sellers, not that much action, so that could keep the price from completely dropping out or anything like that. And these, yeah, the sell orders, they're pretty smaller, pretty much smaller and not as recent. So I think all of this could work out okay if you're happy with the current price, of course, as a high-sec miner. Then let's take a look at Zydrine, which is slowing down. You know, it did start to go up quite a bit after breaking 1200. But that is finally slowing down. 5-day moving average and 20-day moving average are going to meet each other. Let's take a look here. 1485 for the buyers, 1544 for the sellers. Recent orders, not that much, only 3 sell orders here. Recent buy orders, well, quite a bit. So there is a bit of competition, but there's also a bit of a margin here as well. So I actually feel like Zydrine could start to move sideways as well. Let's take a look at the Megasite chart then. It's starting to show a little bit of up and down activity here as well, breaking the 5-day moving average on the going down at the moment, breaking 2200 as well. So we're currently talking 2072 for the buyers, 2173 for the sellers. Still 100 ISK margin to play with, so more buy orders could actually just be normal and not necessarily drive up the price on the short term. For these minerals, it is usually the sellers that dictate the price. If a couple of people went and sold their stocks at those prices, we're going back down, and it could be that the current trend is going to be down a little bit when supply just came in, then go up again, supply will come back trying to take advantage of the higher prices. Just a normal market activity and not necessarily an uptrend or a downtrend. So that's what it's looking like for minerals across the board at the moment. Let's take a look at the impact on Tech 1 chips, and that's at around 10 minutes for that. I think if with stable mineral prices, we should actually see decently stable Tech 1 chip prices as well. The apocalypse is continuing to go down a little bit, but actually I think that that's a healthy pullback when the apocalypse has been above 180 million for quite a little bit. It's good to see them at, well, just below 180 for the sellers and 176 for the buyers. So looking okay, still a little bit higher than what we had 6 months ago, but coming very close to overall not moving a lot over 6 months. And I think with the mineral prices as they are, we could continue to go along this path. Here's the Caracal then, breaking out once again. So the Caracal, of course, very popular among some alliances, and 118 of them being brought here, 25, 60, 19 again. But you can see that someone came in, bought a lot of Caracals once again. It is of course also a more limited investment at only 12.5 million. The Caracal at the moment 11.5 for the buyers. We're definitely gonna settle a little bit higher if people keep flying the Caracals as often as they do at the moment. Here's the Dominics then, showing a very stable one over 6 months, starting just above 190, ending just above 190 again as well. Some variation, but overall this is looking quite okay. So we're 185, almost 186 for the buyers, 196 for the sellers, 10 million margin, which is pretty decent, and right in the middle of that is 190, which is here on the chart. So pretty affordable Dominics at the moment. Next up we've got the Myrmidon, probably best to start with the chart. That one is finally going back down a little bit. It's known a bit of spiky behavior over the last few months, starting May, which is also I think the mineral changes, but now we're heading back towards 53 million, and we're at 49.5 for the buyers, 54.5 for the sellers. So you can probably still pick up a Myrmidon below 50 million if you're willing to wait for the buy orders to fill, but there is a slow uptrend over 6 months. It's still only from 50.5 to around 53 million. That's not too drastic, but a little bit of a general very slow uptrend. It is visible though. Next up we've got the Stabber here, starting at 10.5, finally ending just above 10.5, so that's still quite okay. And yeah, it did recover quite hard from this uptrend that started below 10 million. That was obviously a trigger point. Supply no longer came in here. We went all the way up to 12, and here supply was ready to fill the gap, and now we're back at a more normal 10.5 for the Stabber. Here's the Tornado, the one big exception. That one is clearly trying to hold on at 72 million, although here data points well below that. Let's see what's happening. 73 for the sellers, 69 for the buyers. So no, the Tornado is more expensive than it was 6 months ago by quite a bit, almost 10 million I would say. Yep, close to 10 million. So that is clearly one of those ships that has increased in price substantially, or for whatever reason, possibly and probably also again here early May. The mineral changes has had a major impact on Tornado production. It is of course also a very good gang ship because of its alpha potential, so making that one a bit more expensive may just have been something that CCP has done intentionally. And then here we've got the Vexor starting right here just below 11.4, ending just above 11.4 million. So that is overall hardly any movement over 6 months. I think overall we should see a more stable period for a lot of these as well. You can see right here at April through May that the Vexor knew quite a bit of instability, but I think with the mineral prices as they're going now, we should see a bit more stability in the Tech 1 market as well. Next up, Tech 2. Let's see what the trade market is doing. 14.20 for that one. Here's the Basilisk chart. Going up on a second move up. Very good to see this happening in the logistics cruisers. That means that those markets are still alive, and they were actually the very first market that I noticed trade potential in Tech 2 ships were actually the logistics cruisers. With the release of the Tech 1 logistics cruisers, all of that went to the wayside a little bit. The market became much more stable, but I'm hoping that it's actually fuzzies off, which will definitely increase the need for more smaller fleets. That this could be the turnaround for the Take-Two logistics market here, and it's clearly starting to work because the Basilisk is working on a second move up. Currently, you're selling them for 207 million, which is around here on the chart. So nice little double top in the works here. If you still have some, I think this could be the right time to bring them to the market, especially if you manage to buy them close to 175 or something like that. Here's the Guardian chart then. That one is doing a more of a sustained upward trend here, starting at 115 on the bottom. I sold a bit too early, but we're still clearly trending up. 137 for Guardian's supply, pretty decent. 132.7 for the sellers. So for the buyers have had to follow suit, but there is decent supply here at the moment as well. Look at that, quite a few decent numbers for something like a Guardian in the last 24 hours. So this is looking like a more active market with actual supply and actual demand of that coming in. A bit less chance that there is going to be huge spikes for it. Still keep in mind, one alliance deciding to buy a big Guardian fleet could turn all of this around all of a sudden. Here's the Hound going back down, so we're gonna look for a new buying opportunity. 15.1 for the buyers, 16 for the sellers. So we're slow. Actually, you're buying close to this once again. Once you see the buy orders dip below that, it could be a good time to buy Hounds. Here is the Manticore chart. Very nice spike right here. So you could have bought them very easily close to 21 million. You know, this chart, you usually had buy orders well below that. Sold them at 25, and now we're back down towards 22 million. Still the Manticore a bit more expensive than the other stealth bombers, so not the one I personally want to invest too much in. Here's the Nemesis though. That one is clearly settling higher, close to 21. This is starting to be interesting. If the Nemesis actually settles here, then the Manticore is becoming more interesting once again. So we'll have to wait and see for this again. If you still have Nemesis lying around that you bought below 18.5 or even below 18 million, it could be a good time to bring those to the market. You've got a nice decent profit margin here, but it could be that it's actually going to settle a bit higher next. Here is the Olneros then. You can see that there was a nice spike here to 170 with a bottom at 140. At the moment, a little bit too early to say it's okay to buy or to sell. We'll have to wait and see what the Olneros is going to do next. Here's the Purifier chart, something pretty similar again. You had a very nice bottom with a move up with several opportunities to sell. Now it's back down a bit, below 20-day moving average as well. A wait and see approach on the Purifier I think is much better. Here's the Scimitar though, again another move up, this time touching 140 million. You could have bought them as low as 115, that would have been a pretty good investment. Good to see the logistics cruiser market coming back alive. That does seem to be happening. There are some sell opportunities, not that many buy opportunities at the moment. The Hound is starting to come back into interesting territory, but of course the Hound has also not known a spectacular pull-up like the Nemesis for instance, so be a bit careful as well. Next up, the Tech-3 market, 1815 for that one. Let's take a look at the Confessor, but you know the Confessor very stable. That one has found its price, 35.4 for the sellers, 32.7 for the buyers, so you're pretty much buying a tactical destroyer for around 35 million, then you definitely have one. Here's the Jackdaw then, that one is going for below 40 million, 35.5 for the buyer, so that one still has some settling down to do, but that shouldn't be too long, and it's still in the next patch that will get the Hecate, so no need to go look for that one now. And here's the Zwepel then, again very similar to the Confessor, below 35 for the sellers, 34 for the buyers, 35 million for a tactical destroyer. You'll usually be able to pick one of your choice, and I think that the Hecate, although it looks really great, I think it'll drop just as quickly as the last two here. That's not going to be very expensive for very long. Now let's take a look at some of the cruisers here. You can see the Legion pulling back, heading for 150 million. So 143 for the buyers, 151 for the sellers. The Loki yeah, it's holding on a little bit better. The worrisome part here is that the 5-day moving average is crossing the 20-day moving average. Supply wise, you still have 10,544 coming in. Didn't check that for the Legion, but still 10,556 right here. All of this is very recent, so the supply pressure is on. And then here is the Proteus chart, also 150 million just above that. Supply wise, 15, 11, 544, all of these definitely in competition for each other. But the interesting part is that the Tengu actually went up a little bit, tried to go up a little bit when I checked them. Oh my god, that's a lot of supply coming in all of a sudden. So yeah, the pressure is on. Still 150 million we've seen. Due to supply pressures, Tech 3s go as low as 120, but 150 with a lot of pressure on supply across the board on all of these Tech 3 cruisers. That's not very good for the price. I think we could go lower until again someone says, okay, 145, that's really good to buy a whole fleet of them, and then they come in and you see another spike that gets filled in by that constant oversupply situation that we have. And we clearly have that in the destroyers as well. Look at those numbers, 148, 40, 83 of them. I mean, that's pretty big for I think ships that are usually flown more by individual PvPers in for instance faction warfare. Jackdaw numbers, look at that, pretty big here, 44, 45 and 17. Again, competition, huge supply numbers. The Tech 3 market is very difficult at the moment, I think, to make a lot of money in that one, unless you know when those triggers come, when someone decides, okay, it's time to buy a huge fleet all of a sudden, and then that's only for the cruisers as well. And then finally, for the extra product, I got the question to check on some of the moon minerals, so I'm definitely gonna do that. 2130 for that one, 2130. And of course, with changes to sovereignty, this could have a big impact on the moon minerals. Let's see if I can find them over here. Manufacturing and industry, materials. Is it here? Faction, gas, planetary, raw. No. Components, no, then I'll have to go look for them. Not really sure where to find them. Neodymium was the first one. Neodymium, I think it's like that, or is it? Yeah, there we go. So this is the neodymium chart. This is a 6-month chart. You can see that we had a big spike here early on, I'd say early February, but after that the trend has been down and pretty low. We're actually at, let me see here, 22,550 for the sellers, 20,721 for the buyers. Decent supply, a lot of recent orders here as well, decent demand as well, but apparently some of the orders are in much bigger numbers than the buy orders, and as a result there's definitely pressure on the price here at the moment. Could it be some Gnostic alliances getting rid of stocks while they still can before the changes? Honestly, I would say that with the possible increasing fluidity in sovereignty, that it could be harder to hold on to moons, and so holding on to stocks would have been more my bet. I think an increase in price at the tail end because Gnostic alliances holding on their stocks would have been more logical, but apparently that's not what's happening here at the moment. And so what could happen is, of course, that the established alliances already have the best moons, and they're not gonna lose them with the new system. Or they're very confident that they're not going to lose them with the new system, and as a result they can just start selling or keep selling, because overall this has been decently stable in the last few months, with definitely a general downtrend, especially if you look at the top right here, but we're pretty low at the moment for neodymium. The next one was technetium, so I'll be something like that. Technetium right here. Let's see, we're starting at 10k, then again we have a move up, but this one is a bit later than in the neodymium, at around April, then a drop again to 10k, a bit of a move up, and now we're actually breaking 10,000 ISK. So that is interesting. We're definitely on the low for 6 months again. 9,950 for the sellers, 9,206 for the buyers, so pretty decent gap here. Supply, let's see, not that much very recent, so I would say people may be holding off on the technetium a bit. Right here at the in the last few days. I think that's a possibility. And then here we've got pretty recent buy orders. There is definitely constant demand for stuff like the Cnedium. But again, just like with neodymium, we're actually pretty low at the moment. And so if you do expect at some point that there could be a disruption of supply because of the new sovereignty changes, these could be decent investments, of course. And then we've got Mercury, which was the final one that was requested. Let's take a look at that. Mercury, right here. That one is clearly lower. We started off at 5,000 ISK, again spike here in March, but then the downtrend has been initiated. Tried right here for a short time to go back to 4,600, but we're at 4,200 for Mercury, definitely on a very low point in the last 6 months or so. And so that seems to be the situation for the moon minerals. We're actually pretty low, despite the fact that there are changes to sovereignty, which normally would mean more volatility and yeah, a possible disruption to the moon mineral supply. That's not happening just yet. What is also possible is that people are still selling them at the moment very actively. Well, actually, again, I think something that's always been suggested by the player base, that most people, except maybe current moon holders, would definitely support. But if you want more conflict in nullsec, make those moons deplete and then respawn in different systems or different areas of space. This would mean that the monopoly is a lot harder to do. You can't just hold the moons indefinitely and be in full control of the market. But something like that, I think at some point is probably going to come in a later phase of the nullsec rebalancing. But you would expect people to actually hold back a little bit if something like that was in the book. So it's kind of strange. I feel that we're at such low points for the moon minerals, at least the ones that I checked here that were suggested. We'll have to see what the new sovereignty system is going to do to nullsec and thus to the markets. For now, it actually looks pretty stable and pretty low, even on the moon mineral front. So yeah, there you go, guys. That's it for this ETH talk. I'm actually sweating quite hard because of the temperatures here, but thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.